What's up, Hannah? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you back on the Hetty Coleman podcast. Is this your third or your second time?
Second, I think.
Second. Yeah. So glad to have you. I thought that I have you back on because you've been in business now with the Treasury for how long now?
Just over a year.
Over a year. So I had to get you back on to kind of see what you're learning and how you can kind of share your story so other people can learn from you and be inspired by you and connect. So let's start out by you just giving us your 120-second story, like maybe start from birth to now, just giving us some highlights. It doesn't have to be 120 seconds, but you know what I mean.
Okay, I'll do my best. I was born in Texas and lived there all through childhood and early adult life. Graduated from Texas Tech University. I met my husband in college, and we dated long distance for a while I worked at a daily newspaper in Abilene, Texas. Shout out to the Abilene Reporter News. And then we got married, and I moved to Oklahoma City. Didn't know anybody except him. And that was an interesting way to start marriage.
Yeah. I bet it was.
Had no job. Just spent all day just cleaning our 900 square foot apartment and waiting for him to get home. And he said we were going to be in Oklahoma City for a year. So I was just going to try to grind out that year, not really build any relationships, anything. But that didn't happen. I found some temp work with the state that after a month turned into a full-time gig. So I started writing for them and their website. So that forced me to learn a lot about Oklahoma really fast. And then got plugged into church, started making friends, and decided we wanted to really stick around. So here we are. That was almost 8 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think his intentions were only to be here for a year, or did he pull you into something knowing he didn't never?
No, he did not want to stay in Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and it was funny because I was moving from Abilene, but just before that I had interned in Dallas and lived downtown. And he told me, I didn't really know very much about Oklahoma City, never been to Oklahoma. And he said, well, I moved downtown and I got us an apartment. It's right by my work. And I was thinking of downtown Dallas, and got to Oklahoma, got on the elevator to our apartment building, and I looked out into the street. So it was Park Harvey. So right there at the corner of Park and Harvey, I looked out into the street, and there was a literal tumbleweed rolling down the street.
My goodness.
Not a car in sight. Because that was 7 years ago. Downtown is way different.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, a year, right? Like, I can do this. This is not a downtown. This is just a bunch of buildings with nobody here. But it's been great. It's been really great, obviously, considering that we've stuck around. Bought houses, had babies here. It's home now.
It's home now, for sure. So talking about you being in business when we first started, just over a year now. Now, the unique thing that I believe is your business partner and your husband, Brian, who we're talking about, is now in school in Chi-Town in Chicago while working full-time living in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
How do you manage such a thing? Do you have some routines in your life that you all do to kind of get through that, to juggle a business, a full-time job, a mother, wife? How do you juggle that?
So the biggest thing for us has been, and the only way that Brian would go through with school is if he knew that it was a family deal. It was not Brian going to school. It was our family pursuing this season of him commuting.
Yeah.
And so that meant going to Chicago together very often. So we try to go twice a month on the weekends. So yeah, our routine right now is he goes to work Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, leaves Friday, and spends Friday and Saturday at class. So, Sundays are definitely total family days. We don't make commitments with friends or anything like that. And then, the weeknights, I just do everything I can to support him being able to do homework and study and take his group phone calls and all of that stuff. But we really try to sprinkle family time in more just whenever he's available. So if that means like at 3 p.m. he can step away to have coffee, we go do that. Or if we can go have lunch with him or something, because he's not at home all the time. So.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's good to hear that you all have some routines, some things that you all are committed to. Like, we're doing it this way, and we're not going to let anybody influence that, because it will just be for a season. Oftentimes we do these things, we're like, that flew by. So when you're in the midst of it, it's like, this feels like it's taking forever. But when you're done, you're like, man, that went by relatively fast.
Yeah. So we have readjusted everything in our life to be able to do that. I mean, it's not cheap to travel. We've downsized our house for this season to have the money to go stay in Chicago a couple times a month. We have adjusted everyone's schedule. I mean, it's really, when you complain to somebody that your baby and your toddler aren't sleeping well, everyone first thing is like, we have to establish routines and keep them in their bed every night and all that. Well, I mean, we're all over the place, so it doesn't always work. So we just try to roll with it. And we know that if the most important thing is being together, then everything else is fine. Yeah,
for sure. So tell a little bit about your business and what role does your husband play, because you all are business partners.
Yes.
As of right now, Wives in School, but kind of give us a little bit of history of the business. And you've been on the podcast before, but you're a year old now.
Yes.
Talk to us about it.
So 4 years into working from home, I was just really itching to have a different setting for work. It was like I'd had my son. The dining table was not productive for me anymore. There was kid stuff everywhere. There was, the mailman setting the dog off and having to take a phone call with all that happening in the background. I did not feel productive. I didn't feel professional. Just wasn't working. I started shopping for offices, and that wasn't working either. It would still be incredibly lonely. It would be really expensive, especially in this season where I was not prepared to sign a really long lease for a commercial space. And I just thought, I think other women are having the same problem. It's like work situations for women have been getting more and more flexible. People can, especially people who are pursuing the years of parenthood, have all this flexibility around when they work and how they work and where they work. But some of that infrastructure is not there to make sure that they are productive. They're using their home address, to have clients mail them things, or they're meeting in a coffee shop for a meeting that really should be private in a conference room. And so as women get more of that flexibility, they really need the space for it. So Brian and I started looking at spaces to try to make that work. We met a developer, Eric Flesky, who really believed in that vision of having a female-only space and was really supportive in helping us get over onto Film Row, which was a location that we were really passionate about because it's close to downtown. And just started trying to build that place to help women who are going through that same thing.
What are some things that you've learned being a year in now doing that? What is something that you've learned?
I think a big lesson that's really resonated a lot in the past couple of months is just the importance of being steadfast in what you set out to do. Because I think if you open a snow cone stand, somebody's going to come up and say, you really should start serving cookies. I think people would really like cookies. Yeah. But no, I opened this because I like snow cones. So over this past year, we've really had a lot of, push to do some different things that we know don't align with our values, and we know not that they're bad. Day passes at a co-working space, that's not bad. That's a good thing. But we set out to create a really intentional community who shows up for each other every day, and day passes don't achieve that. So I think at times we have gotten distracted over the past year, like, well, should we do day passes? Should we have? But we know why we started this, and you have to just be consistent no matter what people around you are saying. There's a difference in, sticking with your values and being influenced negatively by what other people say your business should be.
Yeah, that's good. So I know that it's a female-only co-working space. Here recently, you started this thing called The Exchange. You kicked that off in 2020.
Yes.
That's male and female.
It is.
Speak to The Exchange and what it's about and why you decided we're going to do an event where we're going to mix it with female and male.
So over that first year, we were really focused exclusively on meeting the needs of our members who are all female. And a lot of times that meant bringing in speakers, creating events and learning opportunities for women. And we really focused on women speaking because I don't believe women have enough platforms in Oklahoma City to speak. I don't think people who don't have a lot of speaking in their background have a lot of opportunities to speak. We want to give those people a platform. But something that really became evident over that first year was that men and women who own their own businesses, whether they're a one-man show doing photography or they're real estate brokers who have a whole team under them, they don't have a lot of support in the form of like everyone's a business owner from different industries and different backgrounds, and opportunities to learn from each other just from being a business owner. There are a lot of groups that are specific to certain industries, but what we were really learning in that first year of having women become Treasury members who are from all different backgrounds is that someone who's been doing their job for 20 years, has a lot to say, even if it's not specific to your industry. Someone who has had a different background just has so much information that can help you succeed. And so we really started looking to build that out. So the exchange is an annual membership and the members meet once a month. We have a talk from a local thought leader, and really just encouraging everybody to be really candid and transparent and authentic, to really have a deep relationship among some other entrepreneurs that they can't get somewhere else.
So it sounds like you're really intentional about building community and understanding that people thrive in community when we start offering our different gifts and talents to one another. What have you learned are some right things to be consistent in order to build a great community?
I really think for any business owner, I think it's really difficult, because I do care about the community, but also this is how I make a living. So sometimes it's like you're thinking about how to make your business profitable when really, if you serve those people, you'll be able to make a living doing it. So I think just consistently caring about the people, consistently caring about the people who do show up, who do buy your stuff, who are willing to pour into the community that you're working to build. I think just caring about them above anything else is really important. Yeah,
that's good. And so caring for them, I was recently at the first exchange. It was a great event, great speaker. I just love the way that you kind of mingled around and were very caring for the people listening in, asking questions. But
thank you.
I think you just walk away from it feeling inspired, but also the speaker knocked it out the box with the information that he provided. And so you want to end up doing that every month and adding more people to this. Is there a cap? How do you do that? Like, is there a place where you're like, okay, there's enough people in the community, or are you like, let's overflow and we'll work on adding whatever needed to support?
At this point, I think if the people are really engaged, there's no limit. The problem with any big group, I'm saying if you get more than 100 people in the room, is anybody really connecting? It's hard to say. So I think you just have to be flexible in that. I think that you have to say, I would rather have 20 really engaged people in the room than 100 people who are just halfway there. So that's the beauty of what we've seen with membership is that when it grows really slowly and really organically, you do get those people building their relationships as they're part of it. That was one reason why we wanted the exchange to be an annual commitment. I've had a lot of people reach out, well, I just want to go to this talk. I just want to go to these 2 talks. I can't pay the whole year because I'm only going to come to. There are a lot of events. There are a lot of ways. Jeremy Kubicek was our first speaker, and people were, well, I only want to go see him. I don't, you can Google and find a lot of places that Jeremy has spoken and they're on video, but that's not what this is about. It's about physically being in the room, physically getting on the Slack channel and connecting with those people. And when you ask people to do that for a year, I think that their payoff is going to be so much greater than if they just show up a couple times.
Yeah.
So I was really specific in wanting that to be an annual commitment from people, that they're really going to show up, pour into other people, be willing to be poured into every month for a year.
Yeah. Now talk about that. You do have a Slack channel that people are dialoguing and conversing back and forth in that Slack. Why is that important to build in the community and not just having a place to where we physically meet?
I think, well, a couple things. People, when they have the time to really sit back and formulate a question or a response on a digital platform, it is just a little bit different than sitting in a big room full of people. The responses that people have had when people toss out questions, and it can be anything from like, you know, a really basic question, like somebody recently asked, like, hey, can I see some samples of your contact form that you use on your website? Versus like, you know, like something more thoughtful, like how do you phase out a client that you're seeing is toxic to your business? When people have time to really formulate a thoughtful response, it's just a little bit different. Plus, I think when you ask people to only get together once a month, those relationships can build a lot slower than if in between those meetings they have some touch points online.
Yeah, that's good. And so how did you decide to use Slack versus the other? Was there any real thought to that?
The only real thought is just I hate all digital platforms, and Slack was the one I hated the least.
So do you hate them like because you feel like there could be something better out there?
I think for the most part, digital messaging just competes for your attention in just such a toxic way. Yeah. I hate getting notifications on my phone when I'm trying to do something. I hate trying to track people down online. So you just always get that sinking feeling. Like I don't get an excited feeling when I get like a Facebook message ding on my phone. I'm like, oh, what now? You know? Yeah. Slack, I get a little bit more excited about, especially because this community, I mean, these people are great. So I get excited about that, but, it can just be such a distraction. So we really have tried to eliminate, the need to just like be checking in on Slack every day. We want to kind of create digital events instead. So like something we're doing before every talk is an Ask Me Anything with the speaker. And so we'll tell you a specific day and time that that's happening where you can engage. You don't have to even leave your office. You don't have to come find a parking spot. You don't have to deal with any of that. Just hop on Slack for 30 minutes. You can ask that speaker questions that you might not feel comfortable asking in a room full of people. But you can just ask it on the channel and see their responses, see other people chiming in. Because that's the thing, right? We're putting this expert up at the front of the room when really everybody can be chiming in on some of these things because of their specific background and experiences.
Have you found that there's some people who are like, I love the Slack, I'm not even that interested in coming to the physical event? Yeah.
People are weird about it both ways. You know, all these, you know, I really thrive on the in-person events. And I've built this business around people connecting in real life. But there are people who don't like being in the same room with a bunch of other people, would rather connect online. And there are people who, honestly, I mean, all the meetings are at 8 a.m. There are some people who are probably not that interested in getting up at 8 a.m. once a month, being in, you know, in an office environment at 8 a.m. once a month. So for them, being able to check into Slack at other times of the day is easier.
I had never been a part of anything like your Slack community, and so it's been really cool to be a part of that. You know, I hear about Facebook groups and things like that. Have even thought about starting a Facebook group, but I'm like, I don't even know how this really works. So it's interesting to see. Like, I think I've overthought it. Like, it's really simple. And then the digital events, is that what you called it? Digital events, like, hey, at noon, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Chime in, jump in. It has been really cool to see, like, people showing up and being a part of that.
Yeah. And then the way Slack organizes it, you can go back and read through it anytime. So maybe you didn't check that. Or maybe, you know, it's an annual membership. So if you join in May, you'll be in the group until the next May. So when you join, you can still go back to Jeremy's Ask Me Anything and see what were his tips for like creating achievable goals. And you'll always be able to reference those things. It's just going to be an ongoing thread for as long as the group exists.
That is super cool. So now you are a wife, mom, business owner. How in the world do you do it? And what's the hardest part about doing it? I know you kind of already shared some routines y'all have as a family, but when you speak to it just from an entrepreneur, like what are some of the things that you like, man, this is just, I don't want to do this anymore.
Everything about it is hard.
Yeah.
But I do it by the grace of God, you know. I'm reading Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Again, I've read it before, but she talks about, and I don't say this word, but she talks about a shit sandwich, and everybody has to eat that, you know? So everyone's is just a little bit different in how much you can tolerate. So like, I don't love every single element of my job or my role as a mom or my role as a wife, but it's the sandwich I want to eat right now. It's the good things about it make it worth it. I don't work very often. I'm in a season of being a mom most of my time, and I feel very privileged to be able to say that, because I think I didn't know until I became a mom how much time I would want to spend with them versus at work. I think you don't know that ahead of time. When my friends come to me pregnant and they're like, I don't know how much time to take for maternity leave because I don't know how I'm going to feel. Like you can't even give somebody a recommendation, because some people can't imagine not using like full-time daycare. And for every one of them, there's somebody who just can't imagine the opposite. So you don't know until you're doing it. And I've been able to create opportunities that are really flexible for me. So like we run a mastermind, and so for people who don't know, I have 2 kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And the 1-year-old, when she was first born, I took her with me to all the masterminds I facilitated for the first 4 months. And a lot of people can't do that at work. So I know that there's a lot of privilege there. So I just always try to remember that I'm deciding what I really want to do. And I have that privilege. So it makes it easier.
Cool. What have you learned in the last 12 months that has improved you to help you get better?
I think just being really flexible. I think a lot of business owners are really hard on themselves, because owning a business is a little bit like parenthood in that there are a lot of elements to it you can't control. Podcasts and books lie to you and make you think that like if you are running everything on a spreadsheet and like have a morning ritual, then it's all going to go your way. It doesn't. Maybe that's just me. It doesn't, and things happen that are unexpected. And I think if you can just be flexible, that will make all the difference.
Do you have to constantly remind yourself to be flexible? Like, it's not something that naturally comes for some people, where you're one of those people like, oh, I can be flexible.
Yeah, it doesn't naturally come. Just like I told you when I got here, it was a miracle that I'm here because, and since we've been sitting here, I've gotten a phone call from Mother's Day out saying you need to come pick up Juniper. So nothing goes your way. You know, I'll have meetings that took 6 weeks to schedule, and then I have to cancel, or the other person has to cancel, or a project that you've worked on a long time, or a program that you want to launch that then something happens just before and it falls apart. Or people say that they're going to do something and they don't. That happens sometimes. They just don't follow through. And so I think I've become flexible just because you can't not. I mean, I would be miserable every day
for sure
if I insisted on trying to control things, because I just don't have control.
I remember when my wife and I, when we first got married, and she was pretty adamant about having the house clean. Then we started having multiple children. I'm like, just let it go. It'll be okay. Like most people's houses, look like this when you're not there.
Yeah.
Like, we know how to clean it up or throw it in our bedroom or into a closet to make it feel like we all have it together, but we don't. I mean, and not saying you don't have it together. It's just life. Like, it's just really hard to really manage things in a way that things don't get messy sometimes.
Yeah.
You just got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but know in your heart that, like, your intentions aren't to be messy.
Yeah.
Things just sometimes get messy.
Yeah.
And if you're not flexible to deal with the mess, it's just going to stress you and you know.
Yeah.
So it's just not good.
Yeah.
Who are some right people that you find yourself like, I need to consistently be around them, or I need to be consistently reading their material? Is there a certain type of personality type of a person that you look to be around that help you thrive?
You know, lately it's really been important for me to be in the space with our members. They are just really smart women. Yesterday I was working on my own stuff, but I was overhearing a conversation between another member and one of her clients, and the way that she was talking to the client, I'm like, just shocked. Like,
are you like taking notes?
I really am. I'm like, I need to do more of this. Just like, she just has such a great like follow through with clients and making sure that they know that they're valued and cared about and that she's thinking about them. And I was thinking like, I need to try this. And watching them, I think it's really important to watch other people go through ups and downs too. That's been so powerful with the mastermind, is that I have these women who come in here. We sign a non-disclosure at the beginning, so they talk about things that they would otherwise be really personal about, finances in their business or decisions that they've had to make that are tough. And when you're looking at a business from the outside, it's easy to think like, well, they've got everything together and they never have any problems. And I think the more that you have those really authentic conversations with other people, for me, it's other women and other women in business, you realize everybody else is just trying to figure it out. Yeah. Nobody else knows what's going on. And if you're not having those conversations, then you'll really get in your own head and you'll start thinking everybody else has it so easy.
Yeah. You definitely will think that. And I often tell people that, and I don't think people believe me when if they haven't seen the behind the scenes on a lot of some of these things that, you've getting privy to on a regular basis because of your workspace. But it's like, people don't always have it. They're learning as they go and figuring it out and learning to adjust on the fly and to make things great. And so what's something, thinking about you being a female entrepreneur, what is something that what's your message to that high school girl in 2020? What would be your message to them?
I think just try everything. I think for some reason we tell a lot of high schoolers, we inadvertently give them the messaging like, deciding your major puts your life on track forever. And we don't give them opportunities to try and fail at a lot of different things. And we don't give them opportunities to say, I'm going to start down this path, and if I don't love it, I'm going to change. People don't change their mind about their vocation a lot of times. They just stay in it. So I would just say, try everything. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't think I'm really good at this, or I'm really good at it, but I don't actually like it. So I'm going to do something else now. I think it's just important to just try and fail and try and fail and try and fail.
Is there how do you determine what type of failure you're willing to take? What is there a certain way that you would say that they need to judge that? Is it?
So I think it's different for everybody. We recently had an event with a DJ. Her name is Owlette. She's a DJ right now.
What do you mean DJ? A music DJ?
Yes, a music DJ.
You had an event with a music DJ?
Yes. We brought her in to speak because, I mean, you would not believe her life. I mean,
did she bring in the DJ equipment?
No.
Okay.
But she was talking about the same thing, failing. And she was talking about, at 18, she was a break dancer, just trying to get a break. She was homeless in New York City, but she would stand outside on street level outside MTV studios and break dance until somebody invited her in to break dance in the background on a music show. And she ended up getting a gig and going on tour as a break dancer. So she talks about being able to do that because she was homeless. She's like, I had nothing to lose. I was not the best dancer, but I was the hardest worker, and I would do anything to be a break dancer. Yeah. So her threshold was like very high for you know.
She was homeless,
right? So she breaks her ankle, can't break dance anymore. So she just sits in on college classes she can't afford and figures out how to produce video. And becomes a video producer.
Oh, wow.
So she had a very different threshold for failure than most people have, right? She's like, I have nowhere else to go. I'm just going to teach myself and figure it out. Yeah. If I'm interested in it, that's enough. And I don't need a house. I don't need those kind of comforts. For most people, they want a place to live. They want a steady income. I understand that. But I think that people have a tendency to overthink, like, I remember being at this point in my job of wanting more flexibility, but I was afraid to ask for it because I might lose that job. And I remember Brian telling me, okay, if you lost the job, you'll find a different one. And I don't think a lot of people have somebody telling them that. I think they just think like, yeah, that would really suck to get fired, you know? When really, if you just said like, I will figure out something else, I'll find something else. I think that would be a lot healthier way to handle it.
Yeah, that's good. So was that on video?
Cats talk?
Yeah.
No. Oh. You had to be there. You have to be there in person.
Oh,
Eddie.
Man, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was every event. Oh, that would have been so good. I just wanted to show my daughter that.
Yeah.
My kids. I'm a big believer in taking some risk. And so, but I think one of the things is like trying to I can't say any word. Say that word for
minimize.
Me. Minimize your life. Like have as less things as possible. Mm-hmm. So when you do want to take a risk, you're like, but I got to pay for this $700 a month car payment. Yeah, I got to pay for this 5,000 square foot home. Yeah. So now you've pigeonholed yourself to have to keep this certain job versus like sometimes. I mean, I wonder how many people out there, if we took a survey, would change their job. I wonder if there's a stat out there. Yeah. That would change their job if they could.
Yeah, there probably is. I
bet there's a lot. So when you were a kid, what were some things that you thought you would be today? Like when I'm an adult, I'm gonna be.
I mean, my first job out of college was my dream job of being a reporter. I wanted to be Lois Lane.
Really? So all of your life you wanted to be
a newspaper reporter. But I don't know if you've heard, newspapers are not doing very well, and they're not really hiring a lot. No. So it was the greatest job. I mean, it was so awesome. I loved doing that.
So even though you're doing what you do today, is that still a desire? Like, do you still want to be a journalist?
You know, in this particular season of my life, I feel this real pull to help women, help them find community and build that and have some accountability in their lives and all those things. Someday when that's done, maybe I'll do more writing. It's not a great job for you to have other relationships outside of like, it's something I was really passionate about the actual work, but all the other relationships in my life really sucked because I was working all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think most newspaper jobs probably require that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite mom moment?
Oh, I mean, gosh, all my mom moments are just really embarrassing. And I think.
Give us an embarrassing one that you don't mind sharing.
Oh my gosh, Hetty.
Come on, just give me one. Do you have a meltdown, a grocery store meltdown?
Not even meltdowns. The meltdowns aren't that embarrassing. I really just want to look around and be like, I mean, if you have more control over this or you know what to do, help me. But you know, potty training my son was just like conversation about potty all the time, everywhere. And so every time we would go out for a while he was learning, there was a lot of conversation about, hey, this place has a potty and you can go there if you want. So that turned into a lot of conversation between him and me, of him telling me when we would go to places, there's a potty here, Mom, and if you need to poop, you can poop. And when that happens publicly, it's kind of embarrassing, you know, being in line, checking out at Target, and he just asks incessantly, like, do you need to poop, Mom? They have a potty here. You can poop here. Did you know you can poop here? There's a potty. There is.
Oh
it's
my
like,
goodness.
stop asking me. I don't need a poop.
I don't need to poop. I know what a potty is. Oh my Lord.
So
that was Theo?
Oh yeah, and that happened for probably 3 months anytime we went anywhere.
Oh,
I mean,
that is funny.
Raising Cane's,
really
church,
funny.
anywhere we went. Do you need a poop, Mom?
Do you need
They have a potty. If you do.
That's pretty.
Funny.
I've never heard that one before. So going back to events real quick.
Yeah.
What are some right things to be consistent in to put together a great event?
So I was telling you I recently read The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker, and something she talks about a lot in there is purpose, having purpose for your events. And I think a lot of times, over the past year, I got lost at times with, okay, we have space for this many people. We're going to release this many tickets. Anybody who comes, that's great. Events, though, with real purpose, that is, it may not be inclusive to everyone. Mm-hmm. There may be some exclusivity to that. There may be people, if you have true purpose, it's probably going to be a smaller crowd. It's probably going to be on a little bit of a deeper level. Like she says, gathering well is not a chill activity. Mm-hmm. You can't just throw together an event and invite anybody and everybody and say, like, this is going to be good. Yeah. So I think reading that book has really changed the way that I think about it, and purpose stands out as a really important element to gathering, just in that's how you need to make every decision about everything from what food you're going to serve to who you're going to have speak. And then you need to really clearly communicate that purpose so that everybody in the room is on the same page. So that's something we're working harder toward in 2020.
That's good. That's good. Who is I know we talked about the Treasury here. Who should be joining the Treasury?
I think any woman who feels a little bit stuck. The most successful women I've seen coming through our space are women who feel like they have a great idea for a business and they just don't know how to get it to that next level, or they work a day job but feel very uninspired in it. I think we're most beneficial to people who want to be surrounded by other women every day who are really motivating and inspiring. Like I told you, the women I need to be around are our members, because something happens in the way that you're working on your own business when you're around those people. And I think going to a physical space that allows you to get into that mindset every day can totally change your business.
Yeah. That's good. How can people find you and more about the work you do?
The Treasury OKC on Instagram is a great place, and the treasury.work.
Treasury.work.
Yes.
All these new dots. .community, .work, . Wow. What happened to just .com?
It was taken.
Yeah. It's probably expensive too. Before we leave, I want you to grab your phone, and I want you to share some of your apps that you have on your home screen there. What are some apps that you're using?
Oh, man. On my home screen?
Yeah.
Basically just all the Apple basics, and then Solid Joys.
What is that?
John Piper's app, Desiring God app.
Okay.
It's like a daily Bible study.
Okay.
17 Hats, which is like how our whole entire business
what are some things that you could do in 17 Hats?
So like sending out every contract for events and members and everything, and workflow for everybody who, like, from the time they tour the space to becoming a member it all operates through 17 Hats. Yeah. Marco Polo, because my mom calls me on Marco Polo every day, and Spotify. Are you on Marco Polo?
No, I'm not on Marco Polo. My wife and my kids, I think they're on Marco Polo, but no, I never did get into Marco Polo. But there's a lot of people who I know are Marco Polo fans.
My mom.
Yeah, your mom.
She's one of them.
So Spotify over Apple Music, what's up with that?
I don't know. Just Spotify.
Just Spotify. That's it.
That was a Brian decision. I'm just on his family plan. So.
Oh, true that.
Only one song ever plays on Spotify though.
What is that?
Canvas and Clay.
Is that a kid's?
No, it's an adult song. It's a worship song that Theo is obsessed with.
Oh, really? Okay.
So all day long, play Canvas in the Clay, play Canvas in the Clay.
I'm going to have to listen to that.
Yes.
I'm going to have to listen to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Hannah Schmitt. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Hetty.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So much. We got to get Brian on here.
Yeah. Get him to come to Guthrie. In all his spare time.
In all his spare time, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hitting that play button. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.